The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we think it can criminalize our marijuana.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes, and welcome to the show. It is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2013, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. We got a great show for today. I've got such great news on today's show. I couldn't even keep a hat on. I was so excited. Brave Michaela is joining us at 1:30. Our good friend, the 7-year-old medical cannabis patient here in the state of Oregon. She's got all sorts of wonderful updates for us on her condition and what's going on with her. So we'll talk to her at 1:30. Longtime listeners will recognize that means what's going on with Dr. Mitch. Well, Dr. Mitch won't be on the show today, and next Wednesday we won't have a show because I'll be flying to Aspen. And starting in June, we're making a big change to the Dr. Mitch Early Wine Cannabis Q&A segment. It will air on Mondays starting in June. So if you want to get your Dr. Mitch fix, make sure you tune in on Mondays from now on. He's had some adjustments in his class schedules, needs to move to Mondays, and we'll do anything we can to accommodate the good doctor. Also on today's show, talking about good news. Oh my, a new poll out here in the state of Oregon showing that only 1/3 of Oregon voters would oppose marijuana legalization in 2014. We're going to dig deep into that poll, take a look at it, and compare and contrast that with remarks from Marijuana Policy Project shortly after the 2012 election, telling us how 2014 couldn't be done and we needed to do it in 2016. We had to wait. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. I've got a few opinions. Also, in Behind the Headlines, there's been a story in National Public Radio called Go East, Young Marijuana Dealer that talks about the enormous profits to be made from taking West Coast weed back east, where you can get double the price for it. We'll talk about the economics behind that and why that shows that legalization is inevitable for the entire country because of the fungibility of marijuana. Also on today's show, we've got your daily toker tunes for Irie Wednesday. We'll have some great reggae from Brian the Red and his show Red Eyes Reggae Flashback. But before we get to all of that, we've got our 420 radio news headlines. We have got news out of Michigan where the Supreme Court made an important decision regarding DUIs and patients. We've got Los Angeles voting on their propositions for their medical marijuana dispensaries. We'll tell you how that vote turned out. The Organization of American States is embarrassing Washington, D.C. on the notion of marijuana legalization. A lawmaker in South Carolina is trying to fix their state's medical marijuana law. Bet you didn't know they had one. And the American Boxing Commissions are going to start looking at raising their THC levels for boxers.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Greatest threats to liberty has been the government taking people's liberty for things that people are in favor of. The Pew Research Group shows that 52% of Americans think marijuana should not be illegal. And yet there are people in jail, and your Justice Department is continuing to put people in jail for sale and use, on occasion, of marijuana. That's something the American public has finally caught up with. It was a cultural lag, and it's been an injustice for 40 years in this country to take people's liberty for something that was similar to alcohol. You have continued what is allowing the Mexican cartels power, and the power to make money, ruin Mexico, and hurt our country by having a prohibition in the late 20th and 21st century. We saw it didn't work in this country in the 20s. We remedied it. This is the time to remedy this prohibition. And I would hope you would do.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect, and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215, or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, May 22nd, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Michigan driver who uses medical marijuana wins appeal from USA Today. The Michigan Supreme Court ruled Tuesday that medical marijuana users aren't automatically breaking the law if they're caught driving after using the drug. It's illegal for Michigan drivers to consume marijuana, but the state's high court said medical marijuana users have some protection. The court says police must show that a driver actually was under the influence of marijuana for a charge to stick. The court suggested lawmakers consider setting a marijuana limit similar to a blood alcohol level. The justices said, quote, "It goes almost without saying that the medical marijuana law is an imperfect statute, the interpretation of which has been repeatedly required this court's attention. Indeed, this case could have been easily resolved if the law had provided a definition of under the influence," end quote. Los Angeles voters approve limiting medical marijuana shops from Reuters.com. Los Angeles, which has more storefront medical marijuana shops than any other U.S. city, will close hundreds of the dispensaries and hike taxes on those that will be allowed to remain under a ballot measure approved by a wide margin of the voters. Nearly 63% of voters supported Proposition D, which will cap the number of medical pot dispensaries at 135. Two rival measures that also would have placed new restrictions on the city's medical marijuana industry were defeated by wide margins. At least 850 storefront medical cannabis shops are estimated to be operating in Los Angeles, the country's second largest city, and some residents have complained that the dispensaries are a blight on their neighborhoods. The dispensaries that will be allowed to remain were in operation before city leaders approved a moratorium in September 2007 in a failed effort to prevent the arrival of new storefronts selling marijuana as medicine. David Welch, an attorney for Angelenos for Safe Access, a group that had spearheaded one of the failed measures, said he would file a lawsuit challenging Proposition D on behalf of dispensaries that would not qualify under the new rules. OAS study calls for debate on marijuana legalization from Time.com. The Organization of American States, based in Washington, just tossed the White House a message it would rather not hear. It's time to seriously discuss legalizing marijuana as one means of reducing the Western Hemisphere's harrowing drug violence. That conclusion from a study presented last Friday in Bogota, Colombia, by OAS Secretary General Jose Miguel Insulza, is one that a growing number of Latin American governments, including Uruguay, which legalized marijuana last year, are urging the Obama administration to accept. Why do we waste so many resources, almost $10 billion each year in the U.S. alone, as well as lives, hunting down marijuana users and sellers? The OAS's $2 million report, The Drug Problem in the Americas, seems to ask the same thing. It's high time to ask whether marijuana legalization might help reduce drug cartel revenues and therefore drug cartel mayhem. Studies indicate it could rob Mexico's narco mafias of a third of the estimated $30 billion they rake in each year. South Carolina lawmaker proposes legalized medical marijuana from WLTX. Did you know that according to South Carolina law, the state's Department of Health and Environmental Control has the authority to obtain and distribute medical marijuana? That is, as long as it's in line with federal law. Now, one House lawmaker says it's time for South Carolina to catch up with other states legalizing the drug. Representative Todd Rutherford attempted to put an amendment addressing the drug in a controlled substances bill this afternoon. He says the state law addressing medical marijuana was passed back in 1980. His move was shut down, with others saying it was irrelevant to the bill. But Rutherford says the drug can help those suffering from various conditions, and he is not giving up. He says he has other plans to address medical marijuana before this session ends next month, and again next year if necessary. ABC Medical Committee to discuss WADA's increased marijuana threshold. From SureDog.com, the Association of Boxing Commissions will soon examine and consider the World Anti-Doping Agency's new marijuana threshold. Quote, in combat sports, marijuana may be used for purposes of elevating pain threshold. There is also concern as to whether reaction time may be altered with use, the commission's spokesperson told SureDog.com. Therefore, at present, the 15 nanogram per milliliter rule still applies. Whether therapeutic use exemptions should be granted for medicinal purposes will be one of the topics for discussion next week. End quote. WADA officials recently announced that the marijuana testing threshold will be raised from 15 nanograms to 150 nanograms, lowering the chances an athlete will be flagged for out-of-competition use. Meanwhile, the NCAA has cracked down on its marijuana testing, lowering the threshold from 15 nanograms to 5 nanograms. And that's your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, May 22nd, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines with a story from National Public Radio, Go East, Young Marijuana Dealer, examining the economics of marijuana trafficking. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back after this. 420radio.org is listener-supported cannabis community radio, and while we value every $4.20 donation that comes in monthly from our members, we take this moment to offer an extra special thanks to our most generous donors who have provided over $1,000 worth of support to 420radio.org. For their privacy's sake, we'll identify these knights and dames of the smoky table as Sir Randy of the Lakes, Dame Kathleen the Beneficent, Dame Kaylee the Wise, Sir Travis of Stumptown, Sir Rolla J of Cush, and others who wish to remain anonymous. Thank you, lords and ladies.
Ladies and germs, stoners and stonettes, it is a great honor for me to present the High Times Lifetime Achievement Award to the King of Las Vegas, the man, the myth, the jackass. Please welcome Tony Clifton!
Hey, how y'all doing?
I want to say the High Times, thank you very much for this Lifetime Achievement Award. And it's a long time coming. In the past, Willie Nelson received it, Snoop Dogg, George Reynolds, George Hamilton. I don't know. But it's time. I'm very happy I got it. I'm really proud of this. I've never received anything before in my fucking life, to tell you the truth. So, but this is a very nice piece. I'm going to take this home, keep this around, fill it up with some killer weed, take it all down, and then you're going to hear sweet music coming from International Tony Clifton. Thank you.
Now, Andy, did you hear about this one?
Sir, do you think there will or should come a time for us to discuss the possibility of legalization, regulation, and control of all drugs, thereby doing away with the violent criminal market as well as a major source of funding for international terrorism? Thank you so much for your time, Mr. President.
Well, I think this is an entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Name the time and place, Mr. President. Radical Russ has been prepping for this debate full-time since 2005. The Russ Belville Show.
Welcome back, everybody. 15 after the hour. Time for us to go behind the headlines. And there's a story up on National Public Radio called Go East, Young Marijuana Dealer. And it just highlights the huge profits that can be made between the more liberal West Coast with respect to marijuana laws and the much more conservative and draconian East Coast. And this starts out talking about a young marijuana dealer who goes by the pseudonym of Chuck. And it says Chuck used to sell marijuana in California, but the legalization of medical marijuana in the state meant he was suddenly competing against hundreds of medical marijuana dispensaries. So he moved to New York, where marijuana is still 100% illegal. Since making the move, he says he's quadrupled his income. And the story goes on to talk about loading 50 baggies of marijuana worth about $3,000 into his backpack and going about selling those bags. And this has led not only to the dealers wanting to move out east, but it's also had an impact on the growers on the West Coast who now face a production glut. There's, an overabundance of medical cannabis or just cannabis out here on the West Coast. And so therefore a lot of that weed makes its way east. They talked to a special agent, Roy Georgie, with the California Department of Justice. And part of his job is, of course, hiking around the mountains and pulling weeds. But another part is going to the FedExes and the UPS stores in Northern California's pot country to try to find out if people are mailing marijuana out from those parcel packages. He estimates, according to the NPR story, 1 in 15 packages he examines has marijuana in it. Quote, right now, Northern California bud, that trademark, that stamp, is really some of the best in the world, end quote. Now, of course, if Georgie is successful, all that does is mean less competition for Chuck, the dealer, and he can go ahead and charge higher prices. What kind of prices are we talking about? Well, the marijuana that can be bought easily in California for anywhere from $30 to $45 an eighth is selling for $60 an eighth in New York. And so he's very able to sell this. But one of the issues that makes it also possible for him to sell at such a high rate is something that's known as information asymmetry. And what this means is that in the illegal black market that's going on in New York right now, as Chuck likes to say, there is a lot of weed in New York. He says, quote, there's plenty of weed in New York. There's just an illusion of scarcity, which is part of what I'm capitalizing on. This is a black market business. There's insufficient information for customers, end quote. And that's exactly what this information asymmetry means, is that the producer, the seller here, Chuck, knows more about the market than his customers do. Because the market is completely illegal, customers can't shop around. They can't comparison shop. There's no real competition. And since it's hard to find your guy, once you do find a guy, you tend to stick with him. So it keeps Chuck rolling in money, $60 an eighth at a time. And what this shows is that despite any possible efforts that may be made by some of these politicians and states where they don't particularly like marijuana, it's going to be impossible to stop the tide of legalization just based on simple American capitalism. As marijuana becomes more and more legal here out west, it becomes cheaper and cheaper. They're talking about $185 an ounce in Colorado. So who is not going to take $185 an ounce in Colorado and take it to Chicago for $500 or New York for $600 or whatever the ounce prices go for out there? And the downside of this, of course, this is something our opponents will seize on to say, see, we should have kept it completely illegal. There's no way to control it. We can't keep it in one state's borders. And that's going to be used against us in the campaigns to legalize in the future. The point we have to make sure everyone understands is that marijuana can either be legal or not. But it can't be legal in some places and illegal in other places. If we're going to go this road of legalization, every state is going to have to take a look at this and mitigate what's going on with the marijuana market. Everything they do to try to make it tougher to get weed in their state just makes it more expensive in their state and provides more incentive for the entrepreneurs out west to make their way back east. You want to put them out of business? Legalize it and put it in stores.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, if they did that, maybe I could have this in stores.
Hush.
Anyway.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, some Irie Wednesday music with Brian the Red.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Hi, I'm Keith Stropp. I'm legal counsel at Normal, and I'm the old guy who founded Normal back in 1970. I also recently published a book by High Times Press entitled It's Normal to Smoke Pot. I look forward to joining you at the Texas Regional Seminar coming up on June 7th through 9th. The seminar theme is Grabbing Prohibition by the Horns. And one thing for certain, we are at the tipping point in this country, and we are well into the process of ending prohibition once and for all. Hope to see you in Fort Worth in early June. Thank you.
It's quite simple. I'm a very nasty drunk. I get mean. I get loud. I'll tell your deepest, darkest secrets to a stranger, and I'll puke on your shoes. So, if that's the kind of behavior that this culture promotes, fuck it.
Your one-room schoolhouse of choice. Your one-stop freedom shop. It's the Libra Lounge.
Sundays at 3 right here on 420radio.org.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Irie Wednesday, featuring reggae, ska, and other world music genres. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, welcome back. It's Wednesday. Time for us to get Irie. And don't forget that tonight you can turn on, tune in, and drop out, I guess, with Red Eyes Reggae Flashback, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, no dropping out. Because
no dropping out?
We want to hear the full hour of reggae that I'm bringing to you tonight. So, it is an end of an era here. This is going to be the last Red Eyes Reggae Flashback held from Rolla J Studios.
That's right.
So, we're going to take it out tonight with a lot of really good old classic tracks, some of my personal favorites, some things that I just picked up recently. But we're going to go into our Daily Toker tune, which is a track from last week's show. This is Morgan Heritage with The Love of Jah.
Let the we and only we've got to let Jah be, Jah love be free. Jah mean Jah Lord and speaking Jah word with no love in our heart, there's no victory, victory, victory. Who is to blame for the wrong we committed? We and only we've got to let Jah be, Jah love be free.
How many times will we have to stand a new prophet before his words could take on to itself play? There's no sign to be looking for. It's time to live and manifest the word of Jah, which is only love sent from heaven above. Yeah.
Let the love of Jah flow amongst I and I, love the river Nile. For the love of Jah is all we need in this life, in this dreadful time. Let the love of Jah shine through I and I, even through our trials. For the love of Jah is the only way. Carrying Jah Lord and speaking Jah word with no love in our heart, there's no victory, victory, no victory. Who is to blame for the wrong we committed? We and only we've got to let Jah be, Jah love be free. Carrying Jah Lord and speaking Jah word with no love in our heart, there's no victory, victory, victory. Who is to blame for the wrong we committed? We and only we've got to let Jah be, Jah love be free. Yeah. How many times will we have to send a new prophet before his words could take on to itself? That's right.
There's no sign to be looking for. It's time to live and manifest the word of Jah, which is only love sent from heaven above. Yeah.
Let the love of Jah.
Can I take your order?
Give me 15 cheeseburgers.
Come on. Can I take your order?
Can I take your number?
Can I take your order?
You got any egg?
Can I take your order?
Man, I don't have any money. I don't have any money. All right, go.
Man, watch out!
Hey, how's it going? My name's Will. I don't work at a used record store. I don't own an iguana, although I'm sure they make great pets. I don't have dreadlocks or play the acoustic guitar. I can remember quite well, thank you, and no, I don't constantly have the munchies. When 420 comes around, I've still got 40 minutes of work left. I've never hit a girl on a bike with my car or shot my friend with a shotgun. I've never had to apologize for letting a girl I was watching drown in a pool while I was getting high because, duh, I wouldn't be getting high if I was around children. I'm a regular guy who works regular jobs, just like the majority of all Americans who use marijuana occasionally and responsibly. My name is Will, and I'm normal.
The cannabis community includes a diverse set of activists and nonprofits working to end the prohibition of marijuana. We take the time to hear the stories of reform on the Russ Belville Show's Cannabis Community Chat.
You know, I'm a cynical old guy, and my heart's been jaded many times from all of the failures and tribulations of marijuana legalization, and all that melts away when I see this lady's face. It's Brave Michaela, who is on our chat line, on our video window, joining us today with some great updates. Hi, Michaela.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
You're looking good. That's a sweet hat you got on.
Thank you.
That's very, very nice. So you're back in Pendleton, I understand.
Yep.
Yep. So you had to be in Portland here because you were doing all of your chemotherapy treatments for your leukemia. But tell us what's changed. Why do you get to live in Pendleton now?
Because I'm on maintenance and because we can see more family.
Oh, that's awesome. So maintenance just means you don't have to go in and see the doctors all the time and get poked all the time?
No.
Wow.
Only once a month.
Only once a month. Wow. Yeah. So what are the doctors telling you now about your leukemia and how is it going away?
It was already gone.
It was already gone. That's awesome. Wow. And so you must be feeling better. I think Brian, weren't you telling me you saw some pictures where she's getting some hair and it's just all pretty?
She's getting some hair back. Look at that.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa, look at that.
Big change from when Russ saw it.
Michaela, you got more hair than I do.
I don't think he's wrong.
Wow, this is amazing, and you got some cute earrings on too.
Uh-huh. They're orange and they're spirals.
Wow, that's awesome. Orange spirals. So now that you're on maintenance, what else does this mean? Do you get to go like to school and everything?
Yep.
All right.
Wow, what grade will you go to?
Mom, I'm going to go to 3rd grade. Me and my mom are trying to get all my schoolwork books are done, so we can get me up to 3rd grade like my cousin Maddie.
Right. So what kind of schoolwork do you have to do? Are you learning math and reading and stuff?
Uh-huh.
My
mom is going to teach me time and money.
Oh, wow. So is it hard what you're learning, trying to catch up after all this time in the hospitals and stuff?
No.
No? Because you're smart, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. How's your sister doing?
She's doing good.
Oh, yeah. We saw her on the camera backstage a little earlier. She sure looks cute.
Mm.
We're also got folks in our chat room that are watching us right now.
What?
What?
I was in Skunk Magazine.
You were in Skunk Magazine?
On the cover.
On the cover, even?
Oh, well, they did do that benefit for them down there at the world-famous Cannabis
That's
Cafe.
right. They raised a whole bunch of money to help you guys.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm glad that everybody is doing as much as they can. It was a lot of fun for us helping you out.
And guess what? My birthday is next month.
Next month? Well, so is mine.
And I'm gonna do it in Hawaii.
Oh, I don't get to spend mine in Hawaii,
On
though.
Make-A-Wish.
Oh.
That is so cool. Getting to go to Hawaii. Look, I've been working at this for a long time, and I never got to be on a magazine cover, and I didn't get to go to Hawaii, and I don't have as much hair as you.
I think Russ is really jealous.
I'm jealous. Bo, I want some hair.
Okay, come on, settle down, Russ. I think Russ needs a nap.
I probably need a nap. Oh, Michaela, how excited.
When are you gonna come visit our new house?
In Pendleton? That's a good idea. We could go out to Pendleton and do a show there.
Yeah, maybe we should do that.
It's 3 hours.
It's 3 hours to Pendleton. Not the way I drive, darling.
Yeah,
I'll be there in 2.
An hour and a half there.
Wow, so you get to be around your family, you get to be around your friends, feeling a whole lot.
And my little brother's here right now, too.
What? I didn't know you had a little brother.
Mhm.
Wow, what's his name?
His name is Shaden.
Hi, Jaden. How are you doing?
It's Shaden.
Oh, Shaden.
Yes, Shaden.
See, silly me.
You're on the radio.
I didn't know. Well, it's nice to see you, Shaden. How are you doing? Shaden's shy.
Are you gonna be helping Michaela with her homework and stuff?
Yeah.
That's good.
I don't know.
Excellent. That's so great. We are just really excited about you, Kay. So when you got in the Skunk magazine, what did they say about you?
I forgot.
You forgot. Was it good
Well,
stuff?
yeah, we haven't actually got the issue of the magazine sent to us yet. We just got a little preliminary shot
showing that it's going to be
so
released.
She knew she was on the cover.
Great. By the way, folks listening in, that's Brandon Krensler, Michaela's dad, on the line as well, joining us. Hi, Brandon.
Hi.
So I imagine you must be feeling a whole lot better too, Brandon, with all the improvements going on here.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot more relaxed living here. We don't have to drive so many hours every day for one errand or 2 errands like we do in Portland. And it's nice being around family. Michaela gets to play outside and have more interaction with other children, which is something that she's definitely been missing.
That's great.
So,
yeah, I see that you're active with the Pendleton Dads for Marijuana, right?
yeah, I actually got approached by them, and we were talking, and I decided it'd be a good thing to have a Pendleton chapter, seeing how Eastern Oregon is a little behind the times in anti-prohibitionary thoughts.
There you go. That's excellent.
Very right side of the state.
Understood.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon, we got an idea bubbling up from the chat room. We had a request. They wanted to know when would they be able to get an autographed copy from Michaela of the Skunk magazine. If they send you a bunch of copies and you want to put them up on our 420 radio store, we'd be glad to help you out and get you raise you some money that way.
That'd be awesome, you guys. What a great idea. Thanks for whoever from the chat room for that. I'll ask John Brigados, the Skunk magazine editor-in-chief, if he'll send us a few issues for that reason.
Yeah, that would be great. And you need to remind me to remind you to get me in touch with John as well, because I'd like to write for Skunk. So we'll talk about that offline.
I would love to write for them too.
I know, and let's talk about that a little bit. You've been doing the Canadad blog and been posting a lot out there, and I've been reading this stuff, and you're getting really good education out there. How's this been going for you?
Yeah, it's been going good. I started a blog basically to get my opinions out there because I have to censor myself on Michaela's stuff because it's not appropriate to put our opinions on there. So we use that. Aaron has one as well, but I use mine as an avenue for my political thoughts realistically. And a few places have picked it up, like getrealspin.com, and I actually talked to Johnny at the Weed blog to see if he might be interested in posting it up there. I've just been behind on getting new blog posts out because of our move here to Pendleton. So.
Sure. Yeah, so it's canadad.blogspot.com.
Yes, that's it right now.
All right, so check that out, folks. And especially, why I think this is helpful, and Michaela, why your story is so important, is that you're not alone. I mean, there's other kids that could use some help. I just did a story out of New Jersey. And you know how, Michaela, like New Jersey's like way across the country, right? And this little girl in New Jersey, she's 2 years old, and she has epilepsy. And to get her medical card, she has to go to not just a doctor, but also a pediatrician and a psychiatrist. They had to go to 3 different doctors, and they still can't get her a card, and it's just so sad.
Yeah, it is.
So if you could talk to any of the other kids out there, that are scared, dealing with whatever, and they're trying to get into a medical cannabis program, what would you tell them?
What?
What would you tell another kid if he needed medical cannabis?
I don't know.
If another kid asks you if they needed medical cannabis, would you tell them they should use it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worked out pretty good for you, huh?
Because it will help them, and it will help them get rid of their cancer.
And what would you say to those?
And it will help their sickness too.
Yeah. Well, what would you say to those guys that are trying to stop that 2-year-old from getting their cannabis?
Stop doing it.
Stop doing it. You hear that?
Stop stopping them from letting them have their cannabis. You heard it from Brave Michaela.
The governor of New Jersey, you are on notice. Brave Michaela says stop doing that. Well, if that doesn't stop it, I don't know what will, Michaela. I think you done good there. Wow. So now that you're famous, you're famous and on magazines and everything. Do you want to be more famous? Do you want to be in more magazines and talk to more people?
Uh-huh.
Yeah?
You like the attention?
Uh-huh.
I see your doll there. What's her name?
Marita.
Marita?
She's from Brave.
Oh,
that's right. That's Brave, the movie, the Pixar movie, right? Yeah, that's great. You got a Merida doll. All right. So you're feeling better. You're on maintenance therapy here. Do you still have a need? Are you still using medical cannabis?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I use it every day.
Wow.
One in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one before I go to bed.
Mm-hmm. Has it been difficult to keep doing it, or have you been able to?
Nope.
Good. So people are helping you out, and you're not.
Yeah, you're able to get access to the oil, is I think what he's saying.
Yeah, that's very, very good. We're so glad that everyone has been helping you, and you've been helping all of us by helping us understand, what it's like to be a kid and what it's like to have to face this. And you're so brave. You've done such a great job. You're an inspiration for a lot of people, and we really thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
See, we've got a goofy chat room. Remember last time they were goofy. This time they're saying, what would you say if Governor Christie tried to eat you?
No,
you don't eat people.
No.
All right, so we are going to get your request.
Guess what?
What?
Mommy has news for us.
Oh, let's get some news from Mommy.
Okay, we're going to Brave Mama now. This is Aaron.
Aaron Purchase.
Hi guys, thanks for having me on. We wanted to invite everyone on June 2nd at the Rose Quarter is National Cancer Survivors Day 2013, and it's just a big celebration that they throw for people who are survivors of cancer. And it's from 2 to 4 p.m. and they have lots of events for families and we're going to be down there. So if anyone else wants to go down there, come and join us and have some fun.
And they have games and henna tattoos, too.
Oh, that'll be fun, too. So, Aaron, is this up on your blog, and can you give people the address?
Yeah, we'll put it up on the blog and also Michaela's website at www.bravemichaela.com.
Okay. One last thing. Last time you were on our show, Michaela, everybody really loved the Apples and Bananas song, and they want to know if you have any new songs for us.
I have one called Nighttime, Dark Time.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Nighttime, dark time, every time I hear this song, it makes me wanna sing. Nighttime, dark time, nighttime, dark time, oh, I love the nighttime, the dark time.
Yay!
Right.
That was wonderful. We loved it.
Excellent. Oh, the crowd's going wild here.
Oh, the people love it.
Everybody in the stands is standing up cheering.
Michaela, we love you so much. Thank you for being on our show today. We appreciate it.
We love you.
All right, we got to go. We'll see you later.
Stay strong.
Give your mom and dad and sister and brother a hug.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
I want from behind.
Oh,
now I got permagrin.
Too much cute. Damn it.
We'll be right back with some Radical Rant. We're going to take a look at a new poll here in Oregon. Stick around.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Tokers, there's no good reason to get your dog stoned. While it might not harm them physically, imagine being a dog who already begs for treats all day, and then imagine that dog having the munchies. Not cool.
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
Cause the day was hard and your work was long and you need a break from all that's wrong. You better look at the clock cause it's 4:19. Time to reach in that pocket for your bag of green and smoke that weed.
You're tuned.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
All right, well, I got some new polling information that just was released. It's taken May 4th through May 9th. And readers of this blog and listeners to this show and watchers of this live telecast will recognize that there's been an ongoing debate between the Marijuana Policy Project on one side and the marijuana reform organizations in Oregon on the other. And this debate has centered around whether or not we should put our money and time and efforts and volunteer into a 2014 legalization effort, or should we wait to legalize in 2016, use the intervening years for a public education campaign? Well, this new poll was released in Oregon, and it shows that the locals here seem to know a little bit more about the political climate for legalization. There's an astounding 57% of likely 2014 voters supporting a specific tax and regulate proposal for marijuana legalization. Let me read you the actual question here on the in this poll. And this is a poll from Greenberg, Quinlan, Rosner Research, May 4th through 9th, 602 likely 2014 voters. This was the question. There will be an initiative on the ballot next November concerning marijuana law in Oregon. Let me read you a brief description of this initiative. This measure would regulate marijuana in a similar manner to alcohol by making the possession of marijuana legal in the state of Oregon for adults 21 and older. regulating the licensing of marijuana businesses through the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, and taxing the production of marijuana. Tax revenues would be distributed to public schools, law enforcement, cities and counties, and mental health and substance abuse programs. The measure would allow the production of homegrown marijuana for personal non-commercial use if the marijuana is not in public view and the household quantities do not exceed specified limits. This measure would prohibit the sale or possession of marijuana to minors, maintain penalties for driving under the influence of marijuana, and retain the right of employers to enforce drug-free workplace policies. If the election were held today, would you vote yes to approve this measure or no to reject it? And we've got 57% saying they would support such a measure. And when you get these very specific proposals, usually it goes like this. You say, should we legalize marijuana? And you get a big number. And then you start adding, details. Well, should we regulate it like this and tax it like that and do it like this? That's when the numbers start to drop. So starting with the specific initiative at 57% is amazing. And when you break down these vote totals here in the poll, you find a very robust support going on here. We've got definitely vote yes at 37%. Over a third is our base that will support this definitely. Probably vote yes, 18%. And lean yes, 3%. Now, I know that adds up to 58, but you got to round some of this stuff. And because of rounding, it's actually 57. So 57% are on the yes side. Definite no's were 31%. Definite no's were 31, and probably no, 6%, lean no, 2%. They got about 38% for no. And the gap between yes and no is 19 points. So shortly after Washington and Colorado legalized marijuana in 2012, MPP's executive director, Rob Kampia, threatened Oregon locals with a complete cutoff of financial and organizational support if locals didn't support his vision of waiting until the 2016 presidential election to run a marijuana initiative. This is the quote from his Huffington Post piece. There are already well-meaning activists in Oregon and other states who aren't remembering the efforts of well-meaning activists in California, who ignored the lesson of waiting for a presidential election year and pushed a risky initiative during a non-presidential election in 2010, which I'm sure felt good, but succeeded in failing. Now, in addition to that public admonishment on Huffington Post, Kampia sent a private memo to Oregon locals with more direct language. This was his quote from that memo. As things currently stand, a tax and regulate initiative in Oregon in November 2014 would be expected to receive approximately 47% of the vote. 47% baseline from November 2012, plus 1% for better drafting, plus 2% for better advertising, minus 3% because it's not a presidential election. Given that an initiative in November 2014 would be almost certain to lose, MPP would contribute no money toward a signature drive, paid staff, or advertising during the 2013-2014 cycle. If, however, a tax and regulate initiative is placed on a November 2014 ballot, then Oregon will fall by the wayside and lose its time in the sun in November 2016, in the same way that California was premature in 2010 and was unable to raise any funding for a 2012 ballot initiative. The comparison between California's past failure and Oregon's prospective failure is pretty precise. End quote. Now, in a subsequent town hall meeting with MPP's Steve Fox, he's the national political director for MPP, I attended this meeting and asked him a question about this, wanting to know why we would wait until 2016 when 2014 seems so viable. And I'll give you his response here on our video screen just as soon as I get that centered. And you can hear audio there on the show, listening on podcast. This is Steve Fox's answer to my question.
Of your points. The point on timing, I wanted to ask a few questions with. I agree that 2016 is an absolute slam dunk, but I don't see that 2014 is not a layup. And the reason why is that, you quote some of the statistics of how the midterm elections have gone in the past, but that was before 2 states had legalized marijuana. And we are right next to Vancouver, and we're going to see a flow of money going across the border to Vancouver. Our Oregonians already called out the legislature to do something about this, so there's a lot of pressure right now. I'm kind of, there's a part of me that says, strike while the iron is hot in this case, that the previous midterms don't necessarily tell us what we're going to see in the next midterm now that this issue is popular and getting talked about a lot. And in passing, you mentioned MPP's 2006 effort in Colorado, which earned a lot of media, you said, and gave a lot of education. And yet when I saw the memo from Rob Campia, I saw what I interpreted to be a veiled threat that if anyone did anything in 2014, MPP was going to bail on Oregon for 2016. So can you, make me feel, I don't care either way. I just want to support all of Oregon got behind something and passed it. So if that's a roadblock, this 2014 stuff I bring up, how can we get past that?
Okay, which part of that? I don't, in terms of the veiled threat, I would just want to address that because I think what Rob was probably saying, that's Rob Campia, MPP's executive director, is not necessarily that MPP will bail. I mean, who knows what will happen, but we've been in this situation before, and I'll address the difference that might exist because Washington and Colorado passed. But we've been in this situation before where in 2009 we were trying to encourage there to not be an initiative in California in 2010. And the point was you think you might win, but you might not win, and if you lose, it's going to be nearly impossible to encourage funding to come to California because you will have just come off a loss and it just might not be there. And what Rob might be suggesting is that it will make it very hard to raise money if you do 2014. And perhaps for him, he may even know that he works with the fundraising and I don't. So he may even have a better sense that coming off a loss really makes it nearly impossible. And if there are other states he needs to raise money for, it just wouldn't be at the top of the priority list. So, I guess that's part of it. But in terms of the momentum, I've said this earlier, but I don't think I said it here. I'm trying to remember. But the 7-point bump, did I mention the 7-point bump? And the likelihood of not knowing what's going to be happening in Washington, whether there will be diversion issues or anything like that, you just don't know. You might feel its momentum now, but it might be coming in the other direction in 2014. You just don't know. I would never say that winning in 2014 is impossible. It might be possible, but you're going to have to invest a lot of money and then not know. You might, or not you personally, but people in Oregon might say, well, we did a poll today, and it says we have 58 support, so I think we're going to be all right. And then you spend X hundreds of thousands of dollars on a signature drive, and you get it on the ballot, and then all of a sudden all the newspaper reports are negative stories about how Washington's initiative is being implemented, and then all of a sudden you drop to like 53%, and then you get that the midterm election drop that occurs when people actually vote because it's a more conservative electorate than what you got in your polling in February of 2013. So it all comes together, and then you might end up with a loss. And then, for what? You had a guarantee in 2016, and now you don't have 2016. So is it worth it? Do you want to roll the dice? All that money to be spent on 2014 on a signature drive or anything else could all be put into public education that only increases your odds of winning in 2016. So if you want marijuana to be legal in Oregon in 2016, you can do it. And pretty much running an initiative in 2014 is the only thing that's going to mess it up.
So there's a quick follow-up from Steve Fox there saying that only running an initiative in 2014 would mess up 2016. So if that's not a threat to not run something in 2014 from MPP, I don't know what is. And a little bit about this kind of bothers me too. What would have happened early on in the Prop 19 campaign in California instead of sitting on its wallet if MPP was spending money to educate and advertise for that measure? Richard Lee put up $1.5 million of his own money to get it on the ballot. No big funders stepped up to support it until the last couple of weeks before the election. So it's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy to say that midterm legalization initiatives can't win if you don't fund them. And this idea that there's going to be, bad turnout. We're going to get a 58% now. There'll be a bad implementation in Washington, and there'll be blowback from that. So don't move in 2014 with a 58% poll, because over the next 18 months, there may be bad news. But if we wait till 2016, we can overcome 42 months of bad news. And I still have yet to see how a potential loss in 2014 dooms 2016 any more than our loss in 2012 doomed 2016. According to our poll from May of 2013, registered likely 2014 voters, otherwise known as that more conservative electorate we're worried about, when read that lengthy statement about tax and regulate, 37% definitely vote yes, 18% probably vote yes, and 3% are leaning toward yes. That's 57% after the rounding that say they'll support a very specific tax and regulate campaign in Oregon in 2014. And if we use Rob Camp's formula, he said you get +2 if you get better advertising, which we'll have, and you get -3 for a midterm election, we're still looking at 56%, or a layup. And when they get to the next question in this poll, let me read this one to you. This one will really blow your mind. After they asked the very specific question about we're going to tax and regulate it and give the money to schools and have drunk driving and blah, 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 all the details, they came up with this more broad question. Regardless of how you feel about this specific initiative, do you think marijuana should be taxed, regulated, and legalized for adults? Of likely 2014 Oregon voters, 51% said yes strongly. We have a majority in Oregon that strongly believes marijuana should be taxed and regulated for adults. And then the follow-up, the yes, not strongly, the kind of, yeah, I suppose so, was another 13%. The no, the strong no's, hell no, marijuana should never be legalized, hell no, 29%. With another 5% of, I don't think so. Making the total yeses, and again, there's some rounding involved here, the total yeses 63%, and the total no's 34%. Only 1 out of 3 likely 2014 Oregon voters believes marijuana should not be taxed, regulated, and legalized for adults. If 2016 is a slam dunk, 2014 is a breakaway layup. Open court, baby. Phi slamma jamma. Let's move on 2014. The landscape has changed, MPP. You're still fighting for legalization with a pre-legalization strategy. Now that marijuana is legal in 2 states, the whole perception of this issue is different among the voters. We are the majority now. Legalization's no longer a pipe dream. Pardon the pun. It's a money vacuum, sucking dollars from Portland to Vancouver. Supporting legalization is no longer something that's taboo because you're endorsing criminality. It's now a legitimate policy option that 2 states have already adopted. Now, if there's going to be bad news from Washington's implementation, it's going to be in the form of DUID stats or youth use rates or diversion estimates that won't be made public until late 2014 when the figures from 2013 can be collected. So why not move forward now and just deal with a month or 2 of bad news instead of having to wait till 2016 and allow 3 years of bad news to build up? Besides, this year, for the first time in my reporting history, all of the Oregon local organizations and leaders are working together. And I cannot tell you what a huge improvement that is in this state. Also, we've got leaders from all the other organizations, the national level, sitting at the table, except MPP, who refuses to join. And they're pushing sensible language that can actually pass. And they've got some big funders with some commas in their bank accounts, too. This part of the landscape has changed as well, MPP. As entrepreneurs sense the impending green rush, there are more deep pockets than just Peter Lewis's.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
That's all the time we got here for Hour 1. Stay tuned for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio with me and Brian the Red, and your calls at 971-533-7111. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.